Welcome to Fear Files, where the echoes of history resonate with chilling whispers. Join us as Sebastian navigates a perilous path between worlds, uncovering secrets that threaten to unravel the very fabric of existence. Welcome to a realm where every artifact holds a story and every whisper hints at untold horrors. Welcome to Fear Files.
The mansion seemed to breathe with a life of its own as Mac and his team dispersed into its shadowed halls. Each step they took echoed ominously, the sound swallowed quickly by the thick, musty air. Mac's thoughts were a swirling mix of determination and an ever-growing sense of dread. As he moved deeper into the mansion, the feeling of being watched grew stronger, the eyes of long-dead ancestors staring down at him from their dusty portraits. Mac's footsteps led him to the end of a long corridor. There, a door unlike the others caught his attention. Its surface was adorned with strange, intricate symbols that seemed to pulse in the dim light. The air around it felt colder, heavier, as if the door was a gateway to something far darker than mere antiques. He hesitated, a shiver running down his spine, but the lure of what lay beyond was too strong. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was a repository of the bizarre and the macabre. Shelves lined the walls, filled with ancient masks, dusty tomes, and eerie statues. Each artifact seemed to whisper secrets of the past, their presence almost tangible in the oppressive atmosphere. "What the hell is this place?" Mac muttered, stepping further into the room. The temperature dropped further, and he could see his breath misting in the air. His eyes were drawn to a small, intricately carved box on a nearby shelf. It was beautiful in a dark, unsettling way, and he felt an inexplicable urge to take it. Meanwhile, in another part of the mansion, Lisa worked quickly, her fingers flying over her handheld device as she cataloged each item she found. The room she was in was filled with delicate, valuable artifacts, porcelain vases, gilded mirrors, and intricately woven tapestries. She had just picked up an ornate mirror, its surface surprisingly clear despite its age, when a whispering voice filled her ears. "Release me." She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was empty, but the whispering persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Lisa turned the mirror over in her hands, the surface rippling like disturbed water. Panic gripped her, and she dropped the mirror, the glass shattering on the floor. The whispering intensified, echoing in her mind, filling her with a sense of impending doom. "Lisa, can you hear me?" Mac's voice crackled over her earpiece, startling her. "I'm here," she replied, her voice trembling. "Something's not right, Mac. This place is alive." "Stay focused. We need to get what we came for and get out. Meet me back in the main hall in 30 minutes. Lisa nodded, even though she knew he couldn't see her. She took a deep breath and tried to steady her nerves, but the feeling of being watched persisted. She moved cautiously, her eyes darting to every shadow, every dark corner where danger might lurk. In the main hall, Tony and Danny were busy prying open a large chest. The temperature around them had plummeted, their breath fogging in the frigid air. Tony's massive frame shivered despite his attempts to stay focused. "Did you feel that?" Tony asked, his voice trembling with more than just the cold. "Yeah, and I don't like it," Danny replied, his eyes wide with fear. "Let's just get what we can and get out of here." But it was too late. The lid of the chest snapped shut with a force that nearly crushed Tony's fingers. The ground beneath them began to shake, a low rumble that seemed to come from the very bowels of the mansion. Ghostly apparitions emerged from the walls, their eyes glowing with a malevolent intent that sent both men scrambling backward. The spirits were a twisted parody of humanity, their faces contorted with rage and sorrow. They moved with an eerie, fluid grace, their forms barely more than shadows in the dim light. Tony swung his crowbar wildly, but his blows passed through the apparitions harmlessly. Danny tried to back away, but his legs felt like lead, his body frozen with terror. "Tony, what are these things?" Danny's voice was a high-pitched squeak, his eyes darting around in panic. "Stay calm! We've faced worse, haven't we?" Tony's bravado rang hollow in the face of the supernatural threat. One spirit moved closer, its features becoming more distinct. It was a woman, her face twisted in eternal anguish, her eyes burning with an unholy light. She reached out a translucent hand, her touch icy as it passed through Danny's arm, leaving a trail of frost in its wake. Danny screamed, the sound tearing through the mansion. Tony grabbed him, pulling him back as he swung the crowbar again, desperation lending strength to his blows. But the spirits were relentless, their anger palpable as they surrounded the two men. Back in the artifact room, Mac's focus was broken by the distant sound of screams. He grabbed the small box, feeling its cold weight in his hands, and rushed to the door. As he reached for the handle, the door slammed shut on its own, the artifacts around him beginning to move of their own accord. The whispers in the room grew louder, more insistent, a chorus of tormented souls that sent a wave of panic through him. "Return what is ours." The words echoed in Mac's mind, a chilling command that seemed to come from the very walls. He fought to open the door, but it was as if an invisible force held it shut, the weight of centuries pressing down on him. Panic surged through him as the whispers turned to screams, the spirits within the artifacts manifesting as shadowy figures that closed in around him. He finally managed to wrench the door open, stumbling out into the corridor. His heart pounded in his chest as he raced back toward the entry hall, the distant screams of his team urging him on. The mansion seemed to shift and change around him, the corridors stretching and twisting in ways that defied logic. By the time Mac reached the main hall, the scene was one of chaos. Lisa was huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with terror and her body shaking uncontrollably. Tony and Danny were nowhere to be seen, their earlier bravado replaced by a deafening silence. "Lisa, we have to go!" Mac shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her to her feet. But before they could move, a figure stepped out of the shadows, his presence exuding a chilling calm. Sebastian Drake. The reclusive antiques collector was an imposing figure, his eyes cold and calculating. He looked at Mac and Lisa with a mixture of pity and disdain. "You've made a grave mistake coming here," he said, his voice smooth and menacing. "These artifacts are bound to this place, and now, so are you." The spirits surged forward, their touch freezing and painful. Mac fought desperately to reach the door, dragging Lisa with him, but it was as if the mansion itself conspired against them. Doors slammed shut, walls shifted, and the air grew thick with an oppressive, otherworldly force. As the spirits closed in, Mac's last thought was a bitter realization of the true cost of his greed. The mansion's secrets were not meant to be disturbed, and now they had awakened, hungry for vengeance. The darkness swallowed them, leaving the mansion silent once more, its deadly collection waiting for the next unwitting visitors drawn by greed and curiosity. The fog rolled back in, thick and unyielding, as the mansion stood silent and foreboding. Inside, the artifacts hummed with a malevolent energy, their spirits sated. For now. Sebastian watched from the shadows, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. His collection was intact, its power undeniable. The mansion waited, as it always did, for the next group of fools to succumb to its deadly allure. The scene shifted as Sebastian left the mansion, his footsteps echoing in the silence. In the darkness, the artifacts whispered to each other, their voices low and filled with malevolence. They had been disturbed, their rest interrupted, and their anger was far from sated. The mansion, with its shifting walls and haunted rooms, was a prison for the unwary and a fortress for the malevolent spirits bound within its confines. Outside, the fog began to lift slightly, revealing the path that led back to the world of the living. But for those inside, the mansion was an inescapable trap, a labyrinth of horrors that held them captive. Sebastian's figure disappeared into the night, leaving behind a silence that was heavy with the promise of future terror. The mansion's secrets remained buried within its ancient walls, waiting patiently for the next unwitting souls to stumble upon them. And in the quiet of the night, the whispers continued, a dark symphony of voices that spoke of vengeance, despair, and an unending hunger for the living. The story of Mac and his crew would soon become another whispered legend, a cautionary tale for those who dared to venture too close to the cursed mansion. And as the night wore on, the mansion stood as a sentinel in the fog, its dark heart pulsing with the malevolent energy of the spirits trapped within. For the mansion was not just a place of antiques and curiosities. It was a place where the past refused to die, where the spirits of the damned lingered, and where the shadows of the past would forever haunt those who dared to disturb them.
Thank you for joining us on Fear Files. Stay tuned for more chilling tales where fear meets fascination, and explore the depths of history's darkest secrets. Subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss an episode as we journey deeper into the unknown. Until next time, may you find courage in the face of the collector's wrath.